The West Coast offense on the gridiron, sabermetrics in baseball, a team going all in with a 3-ball on the basketball court. Innovation in sports has always given teams the edge. Well, the same thing goes for hiring. Nobody knows the importance of innovation more than ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter's on the cutting edge of candidate matching technology. Technology that learns what you're looking for as a company and then identifies people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. So one click sends your job post to over 100 of the internet's leading job boards. ZipRecruiter is scouting talent for you. Need a stat to back it up? 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter, 80% get a quality candidate through their site in just one day. The next generation of matching technology, it's here. And that's what makes ZipRecruiter the smartest way to hire. My listeners can try it for free. ZipRecruiter.com/Colin. ZipRecruiter.com/Colin. One more time, do it for free. ZipRecruiter.com/COLIN.
On a Monday, this is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. It is great to have you in on a Monday. Chris Broussard, Chris Mannix, Dahntay Jones among the three guests joining us today. Well, I have to address Friday, right? Finals are over, Warriors sweep, LeBron wears a cast. I got to address this stuff, right? Haven't talked since then. I'm hearing a lot of this over the weekend. LeBron's got no heart. Hey, quit. Cavaliers quit. Sweet, terrible, legacy, bad. So let's look at this. Let's add some context. Let's take a deep breath. Game 1, on the road, overtime loss. Game 2, blowout loss. Game 3, minute left, chance to win. Game 4, blowout loss. So 2 of the 4 games, minute left, in doubt. Now think about this. If I said to you going into this series, one team has 4 of the top 15 players in the world, home court advantage, better coach, younger, better, more athletic roster, probably deeper, and oh, by the way, the refs will give them a huge break in game 1 at home. How long do you think the series goes? Folks, yet in 2 of the 4 games, with a minute left, you thought Cleveland had a real chance to win. I worked in Vegas for a while, covering boxing. Some fights need to be stopped early. That's not quitting. There's a reason you, me, the world thought it would be a sweep or a 5-gamer. Michael Jordan got swept twice in the first round. Did he quit? No, he was overwhelmed. Even Friday, the Cavs were down 3-0, nothing to play for, down by 18 first half, clawed back to take a 39-38 lead. And then what happened? Oh, I don't know. The team with the better coach and the better bench and the better roster and the better players who got a break in game 1 from the officials, absolutely dinging the Cavs emotionally, went on to go on a big run and pull out a win and get a sweep. Again, sometimes it ain't about quitting. It's about they're way better than we are. We had a chance early in the first quarter of a football game, the first couple innings of a baseball game, the first half of an international soccer matchup, the first period of a hockey final, and then we just get overwhelmed. We needed every break. We didn't get it. It's over. Never forget this. You and I all acknowledge, right? Everybody in the world acknowledges, even a guy living in New York, Philly, D.C., Boston. The West is way, way better than the East. And with that, in the last 2 years since Kevin Durant arrived in the Bay Area, they're 32-6 in the playoffs. That would be remarkable in the East. In the West, Minnesota's loaded with talent, struggling to win playoff series. Utah's good. Portland's good. New Orleans swept Portland. San Antonio's the Spurs. They're always quality. Houston, Golden State, and KD's 8-1 in the finals. KD and the Warriors 32-6 in the playoffs. This isn't about quitting. If I'd have laid out everything before the series and said, yeah, and you want to know that one-man team in 2 of the 4 games had a chance to win with a minute left. Folks, there is a reason that LeBron James, he wasn't faking it, punched a wall after game 1. because LeBron knew that was his opening. That was the sliver of a chance he had. That was the only chance they had to get into the Warriors' head. And the refs pulled a David Copperfield and reversed it. And LeBron addressed that.
Self-inflicted. Post-game after game one. Very emotional. For a lot of different reasons, understanding how important a game one is on the road for our ball club. What would that done for us? The way we played, the calls that was made throughout the course of that game. I had emotions on, the game was taken away from us. I had emotions of you just don't get an opportunity like this on the road versus Golden State to be able to get a game one. And, I let the emotions get the best of me and pretty much played the last 3 games with a broken hand.
You can call it an excuse. Sometimes you got to stop a fight early. Sometimes it's a mismatch. There was a little tiny sliver of an opening, and the refs took it away. Golden State would have won the series anyway, but instead of 5 or 6, they won it in 4. That's not quitting. I've been watching sports for 40 years, covered it for 25. That's not quitting. That's a tsunami from the Bay Area that just steamrolled yet another team. 8-1 in the finals, 32-6 in 2 years with KD. Let me shift to this. Sometimes something happens to all of us. It'll happen in your life. Maybe not now, maybe not yet, but it will. It will feel really, really painful in the moment. But big picture, long term, a year later, 10 years later, it was the best thing. A lot of people say that about divorces. Really, really painful. Kids, relationship, friends, property. But then 10 years later, we're both happier. I know what you're thinking right now. Kevin Durant crushed LeBron. In your face, LeBron. It's over. No. This is a great thing, big picture for LeBron. Because we just saw loyal LeBron, who went back home, get steamrolled by opportunistic, mobile Kevin Durant. All of us watched it on TV, the grandest stage. We just watched loyalty get thumped by mobility. That is a great thing. These finals are not the end of LeBron. Thankfully, they're the end of, quote, loyal guy. Let's see what we watched in the playoffs this year. Russell Westbrook is loyal, right? He stayed in Oklahoma City. I know it's not glamorous. I know it feels like a college town, but I stayed there. And for the second straight year, loyal Westbrook runs out of gas, arguing with fans, shot fighter, steamrolled in the first round of the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan, hey man, a lot of people wanted him. They did. I'm going to stay in Canada with that miserable tax rate and that cold weather in the winter. I am loyal, and I am getting swept again by LeBron. Loyal LeBron went back home, swept by Durant. Now let's look at opportunistic mobile guy that seizes opportunities when presented. Kevin Durant, another ring, another finals MVP. Chris Paul could have stayed in L.A. No, you said he'd never get big playoff win. Chris Paul, Western Conference Finals, they led 3-2. He would have been named MVP. Looked pretty good, didn't he? Changed a lot of eyes and ideas, didn't he? A lot of narratives died. A lot of stories died. Chris Paul, not clutch, died. By the way, Al Horford was Mr. Atlanta Hawk. He decided to upgrade. Next year, they'll be favorites to win the East and get to the NBA Finals. And it should also be noted next year, mobile and opportunistic Brad Stevens. Could have stayed in college, went pro. Mobile and opportunistic Gordon Hayward. Could have stayed in Utah, went to Boston. And mobile and opportunistic Kyrie, I'm going to ditch LeBron James, will be heavy favorites to get to the finals, especially if LeBron moves west. This finals was not the end of LeBron. It was the end of loyal guy. Loyalty is not rewarded in the NBA in 2018. It's not. You got to leave the zip code. You got to get on a plane, hopefully a private one with a rich owner who takes you to a team with a bunch of stars. Kevin Durant clobbering LeBron and J.R. Smith's boneheaded play are like that painful divorce the week you get divorced. Then a couple of years later, you're like, yeah, it kind of gave me an out. It kind of gave me an out, an excuse, a reason, and I'm much happier now. I mean, think about how we've changed thinking about the NBA. 5 years ago, if you left, man, a bad guy. Now it's like Kevin Garnett left, ring. LeBron to D-Wade left, ring. Kevin Durant left, 2 rings. If LeBron doesn't leave, what is he, crazy? The Spurs want him. The Rockets want him. Philadelphia's got 2 stars want him. Los Angeles wants him. A lot of things are painful in the moment. This is what they say about divorces. But then 5-10 years later, you split up the assets. Kids were in a healthier environment. You're just happier day to day. It's a real good thing. A lot of winners in divorce. Oftentimes, both people much happier in a better place. So are the kids. Yes, it looks awful what J.R. Smith did. It looks awful. But I'm watching KD win again, and you can be a hater and a doubter, but mobile guy, opportunistic guy, once again thumps loyal guy. Not the end for LeBron by a long shot. It's the end of staying in a place where the owner and the GM, when your career starts to wind down, wouldn't for a second pause to dump you. Opportunity rarely knocks. When it does, open the door and walk through it. Coming up next, I do think the dynasty, which showed fatigue, will at least take a sabbatical next year. I'll explain why coming up. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico's been saving people money for 75 years. Simple. Want to save? Go to geico.com. Congratulations to the Warriors. Earned every bit of it. All-time great team. There's a handful of them. Showtime Lakers with Magic. Kobe, Shaq, Lakers. Bird, McHale, Celtics. MJ's Bulls. This dynasty, I think, is really, really good, and I do consider it a dynasty. And the reason I consider it a dynasty is everything has changed. It used to be that 3 titles meant a dynasty. And I believe now it's just 2 titles because the world has changed and it's unrealistic. To keep superstars together for 2 years, to keep them emotionally on the same level, to remain viable as they all become worth over $150 million is more difficult. Something is happening in the world. We see it a lot in sports. Players now are richer. They have a greater voice. Social media is a constant pat on the back, telling them how amazing they are and encouraging them to give us thoughts on politics and presidents and people they don't like. And that has all created a real thing. It is hard to make players accountable, coachable, and manageable for long, long stretches. Take the New England Patriots and the San Antonio Spurs as examples. For 15 years, they have been almost like a military, covert operation. Nothing gets out. There is the owner, the GM, the coach, the players all getting along. Even if there's a problem, you don't hear about it. In the last year, we've had issues with both. Kawhi Leonard, a non-verbal, non-confrontational guy, struggling with Popovich, and Brady and Belichick, there's a clear fissure. This is the world we live in now. It is harder. It is unrealistic to expect teams filled with stars and guys worth over $100 million to win 3 titles. To me, if you can win 2, it's a dynasty. David West, who joined this team to win a ring, he's got a couple now, was quoted on Twitter saying, "Y'all got no clue, no clue." That tells you about this team that nothing came out. Sean Livingston, shout out to Steve Kerr for dealing with our BS this year. Folks, they're telling you, it should be ice cream and rainbows. It was hard. They just won their second. Steve Kerr addressed this Friday night.
It's definitely the toughest from the standpoint that, it's the fourth year in a row that we've attempted to get back to the finals. 3 years ago was, I can't believe this happened. And now I can definitely believe this happened, but it was hard. And it gets more and more difficult as you go through. Next year will be even tougher. I may not show up until All-Star break because they're not going to listen to me anyway. So, thank you.
Athletes today are more political. They're richer. They have a stronger voice. It's magnified by social media. They're constantly told how special they are. Therefore, they become harder to manage and harder to coach. It should be ice cream and rainbows. It should be field trips, long naps in the afternoon. Folks, in the last 2 years, it's been sweep, 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 title in 5, 5-5-7, title in 4. And Steve Kerr said, it's brutal. It gets really tough. No, what happens is millionaires become billionaires. There's a big difference between millionaire problems, really comfortable, and billionaire problems. This is easy. I don't even have to work and my assets grow. Vanity, empowerment, egos, fragility, rigidity, my way or the highway. I consider this a dynasty. And next year, Golden State will have the best players again. But I said it several months ago, and I'll say it again. The Celtics will dethrone the Warriors. The Celtics won't have as much talent, but they'll have the second best roster in the league. They may have a better coach. We'll see. They'll have multiple players who can score late in games. Golden State will have the most talent, but they won't be the freshest. They may not be the healthiest. They won't be the most coachable, and they won't be the hungriest. We saw it this year. P.J. Tucker gave this team problems. Eric Bledsoe gave this team problems. Eric Gordon. James Harden didn't play well in stretches, and they took Golden State 7 and probably beat them if not for Chris Paul's injury. Next year, I think the Celtics, that's why when everybody freaks out about a dynasty, name the last dynasty that lasted longer than all of us predicted. The Warriors will win the West. They're certainly not going to take Houston lightly, but I think they'll be upended by the Celtics, who are the closest thing to the Warriors, but younger, fresher, perhaps healthier, and maybe even better coached. Certainly more coachable. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So the Cavs got swept by the Warriors on Friday night, and that is the second time LeBron has been swept in the finals in his career.
Yeah.
And for Charles Barkley, the GOAT debate is now settled, and be careful if you disagree with him, because here's what might happen to you.
Any media person that I see in person for the rest of my life who try to tell me LeBron James is good as Michael Jordan, I'm just going to slap the hell out of him right on the spot. No question asked. The next person who walks up to me and say, LeBron James, who is amazing, as good as Michael Jordan or competes like Michael Jordan, I'm just going to slap the hell out of you right on the spot.
Well, the threat of being slapped by Charles Barkley and the GOAT debate forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's my favorite part of this whole discussion. We're not close to the end for LeBron.
No.
He's got 4 more years, probably on a very good roster, and I'm excited for it. I told you in the middle of the season, John, I had LeBron Cleveland fatigue. I just wanted a different story.
Sure.
You know, sometimes you're reading a book halfway through, you're like, it's not working for me. We've all gone to movies and walked out. Like, I'm done with the Cleveland thing. I just want to see him go to somewhere. Philly, Houston, San Antonio, Lakers. I think Lakers, and it's a better story and it's more fun.
Yeah. Sticking with the Cavs, according to a report by Brian Windhorst, if LeBron leaves in free agency, the Cavs will make their entire roster available. They'll basically try to start over, especially with Kevin Love, who I believe has 1 more year left on his deal.
Yeah.
However, Kevin Love has made it clear he does not really want to leave Cleveland and is hoping LeBron will stay with him. Here's what Kevin Love said.
Anything's possible. People have been saying that for 4 years, so I knew that question was going to come, but I don't know. I'd like to be here. I've always said that. Always wanted to win here. It'll be something where I'm sure he'll spend some time with his family, and when that time comes to make a decision, he'll be in a good frame of mind. So, obviously, would love to play with LeBron the rest of my career, but that's going to be a choice that he makes, and we'll see.
By the way, Kevin Love averaged what in this series? Like 21 and 10?
Yeah, he was good.
19 and 11. Kevin Love's got basketball left in him. If Kevin Love could go, he's got 1 year left. He said, I don't want to re-sign. Kevin Love could be a nice third best player on some really good basketball teams.
He's one of the few pieces that actually has some trade value for them. They have their pick, and then he's like a team would want him as a third piece.
Only two people in the media like Kevin Love, me and Chris Broussard. Everybody else always bangs on him, but it's like if you give me 20 and 10. I've always thought, Chris Bosh and Kevin Love are similar. They could have stayed in their place and averaged 24 a game, Toronto and Minnesota. They wanted to win rings, and so they went and played with LeBron. And all these big fours that play with LeBron get marginalized, but Kevin's still a really nice player.
What about going to the Sixers for him?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he be perfect for them?
Yeah.
And finally, some CFL news I'm sure you're waiting for.
Yeah.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats played their final preseason game yesterday. Johnny Manziel actually played pretty well again, 12 for 20, 88 yards and a touchdown. He also took some really hard shots in the game from a lot of defensive players talking trash, but it didn't faze him. Here's what he said about his performance.
It's fun going back and forth. You can say what you want, but at the end of the day, you got to go out and play. So, it's fun. It's fun to be back in the mix. It's fun to have people saying stuff like that. I know I got a target on me. It is what it is, and I felt like for the first game and first time getting out here, it was a lot of fun. And that's just part of it. You can't try and go over everything. There are some things that are different, but I'm going to learn them as we go and continue to get better. There's some silver lining success in there somewhere, so I'm trying to build on this and move forward.
I'm really happy that he had the guts to go out and say, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to step back and go to the CFL. I honestly tip of my cap. This is what I wish Tebow would have done, but Tebow's ego got in the way, and his handlers didn't think it.
You've been a fan of this route for years.
If you go to the NFL as a quarterback and you're kind of a running quarterback and you get beat up in the NFL, go to the CFL. It's way better. It's almost like a really good AAA baseball. It's like, Japanese baseball, they say, is somewhere between AAA and the bigs. It's somewhere in between. Canadian football is way better than our college, but not our NFL. Go prove yourself. There's real players up there. There's real coaches up there. They're very clever. I'm really happy for Johnny Manziel. This is what other guys, Vince Ferragamo, Warren Moon shouldn't have ever played there, but we've seen multiple guys do this in the Canadian Football League. There's real coaching up there. There's NFL guys up there.
Yeah.
Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Let's bring in the other guy in America that likes Kevin Love besides me, Chris Broussard. As Kevin Love gets banged on, he's got a year left. He could end up being he could go back. He went to high school in Portland. They could use a nice Kevin Love acquisition.
He'd be a great fit in Portland.
He'd be a great fit up there. First of all, let's address the LeBron and the Cavs quit. With a minute left, they were in 2 games. I don't think they were quit. I think they got rolled by an all-time team.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't quit. Look, Game 4 was predictable. I thought it would get ugly. When you know it's over, when you're down 3-0, and you're overmatched to begin with, we've seen that happen before. And they played a good first half, and then it got away from them. But no, they didn't quit.
By the way, any guy, I'll just speak for men. If you're going on a date and you know it's the last date, is it the best date? You're mailing it in before you get to the entree. I just think emotionally they were done. The hand injury for LeBron, listen, he's not faking it. There's a report there were 2 MRIs, but, is he a little dramatic? Where did you fall on this?
I think he was definitely hurt. No question about that. Too many guys would have to be on board for it to be fake. The doctors, first of all, make him a special cast he's going to wear. ESPN is in cahoots because they run this photo. Everyone in the Cavs organization has to be, hey, if anybody asks you about LeBron hitting the whiteboard, say he did. Come on. Of course he was hurt. But it's no excuse. No excuse because, one, you played 40-something minutes a night. You played extremely well. No one could tell that you were injured. It's like Steph Curry in the past years. I don't want to hear about the knee. You looked fine. You just didn't have great games. So what? I'm not going to look at the injury as an excuse. And then, secondly, it was self-imposed.
That's right.
So if you go up against, Draymond and you get hacked on the arm or hand and he bruises your wrist, that's one thing. But this was self-inflicted, so no excuses. But it was bad optics to where I don't think he should have worn the cast to the press conference because he opened himself up to all the critics and skeptics that want to say, oh, here he is making an excuse. So I think he just should have waited on that. But, it was a factor, but not an excuse.
By the way, so now we know the best team in the league is Golden State, and LeBron will be the most coveted free agent ever. Because we didn't really think of Kevin Durant as a free agent. He just showed up one day. We heard about it. Boom, he was suddenly in Golden State. There's a lot of different things. D. Wade said yesterday, and he's pretty tight with LeBron. Yeah. He said, I don't think it's a basketball thing. I think it's a lifestyle thing. That has always, Chris, been my point, is that I've seen this with the Jay-Z's. I've seen it with the Timberlakes. I've seen it with actors. I've seen it with Michael Jordan. There's the 3 stages up to an all-time great. I'm going to show off and show you how great I am. And then after a while, Michael Jordan thinks, I got to get titles here. I'm just going to be a 60-point-a-game guy. Then you win your Grammys, your Oscars, your titles. Then you move into mogul stage, where you may make moves not just for winning. Michael didn't go to the Wizards for winning. He went there to get a piece of ownership. I don't think basketball's the number one reason for this move. I think he's not going to a bad team, but I think he's moved into mogul stage.
I don't know about mogul stage, but I think family is very important. Look, his oldest son is about to enter high school, and he's a good basketball player. I mean, he could be an NBA player one day, maybe. So I don't think LeBron wants to hop around, like go somewhere for 2 years and then uproot his family and his children who are, in high school and things like that. So I think more because he's a mogul already. And he could be a mogul wherever he wants because his businesses can run. He's got other people running them for him. But I think family-wise, look, they've got 2 homes here. They live here in the summer. Obviously, his wife and children like it here. You can put your son in a good high school for academics and basketball. And then the combination of that and winning, I think the Lakers could be in position to do that. Now, I don't think he'll go to the Lakers by himself. Even if it's lifestyle, family, and all that, I don't think he'd go there without another star. Yeah. But to combine, you got the family aspect and then the winning. Here's what I think the Lakers should do, and I think LeBron and his group would look at this as good too and maybe suggest it to him if they talk, which they will. The Lakers should try to sign LeBron and Chris Paul as free agents and then trade for Paul George.
Okay.
So now you bring all 3.
Okay, so let's explain that slowly for the audience. Chris Paul and LeBron are tight. So LeBron gets on the phone. Chris, let's go to L.A. Boom. And then Oklahoma City, knowing we got to get something, not nothing. Then Magic gets on the phone and says, trade us Paul George. Now, that's a pretty good team.
I think that's a team that you would say has a chance to win a championship.
No. I think they'd be the champion favorite because I listen. I just said this.
They'd be right there,
Chris. The fatigue, emotional factor. You saw cracks this year with Golden State. They got beat by 40, 30 multiple times, 20.
Kerr's letting players coach.
David West said, y'all don't have a clue. You don't know what happened in this locker room. I think 2 titles is the new 3. Is that social media empowers athletes. They're more political. They're more empowered. They make more money. They've got a greater voice.
Their own corporation.
Used to be Shaq, Kobe get the 3. They wear each other out. I think now everybody wears themselves out after 2.
Even Jordan, after 3, took a break and then came back and won 3 more and took another break.
Yes.
So, it's tough. That's legitimate. I mean, I think the Warriors would still go into the season as the favorite, but you make a great point, and that L.A. team would be phenomenal. And here's the thing. I think 5-year plans in sports are over.
They're over.
Yeah, every sport. Like, I don't want to hear about that. Now, Philadelphia is somewhat of an anomaly because they got 2 guys that look like they'll be all-time greats.
Right.
But the Lakers, I don't want to hear, let's let Lonzo and Brandon Ingram and let's see what they can be. Because I don't look at anybody on the Lakers right now and say that guy's definitely a star.
No, I think they got a bunch of guys that could get to B+. Like Al Horford good, where depending on the series of the night, there are moments they take over games, but they're not Harden.
Exactly.
They're not
Simmons and Embiid.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think Magic Johnson would be like, look, let's go for it now. Forget all this building down there. Like, if you have to go that route, fine. But I think he'll sacrifice these young guys. The one I would want to keep would be Kuzma because he can shoot. So with George, LeBron, and Chris Paul, you need shooting.
There's been a couple of things that have been thrown out there. I got to tell you, you can start connecting the dots. D. Wade says, I think LeBron will make a lifestyle choice. Then all of a sudden, Mark Stein, who, by the way, LeBron addresses by first name often, suddenly drops a story about Chris Paul, the Lakers. It does feel like there's a little inertia. Woj comes out with a story that by Woj standards, I can't figure out. It's almost like he's doing the Lakers a favor by writing a story which says, hey, LeBron, get a hold of Paul George. We can't connect you two. You have to. I feel like I bought into you about a week ago on Philly, but it feels like there's inertia to the Lakers.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I don't think the Lakers is necessarily the best fit basketball-wise. If I'm just strictly looking at basketball, I love Boston. Ooh, I love Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could do a three-way trade with the Knicks, send Kyrie to New York, LeBron, obviously, to Boston. I mean, they've got the assets. They got the young talent. They got the great coach.
Boston
and
interested?
You stay in the East.
Is Boston interested?
Oh, yeah. Everybody's interested in LeBron. And, yeah, they would be. So you could do any number of things. You could even trade Gordon Hayward for LeBron to Cleveland, because if you're Cleveland, I'm losing you for nothing. Oh yeah, I'll take Gordon Hayward. And then you could maybe trade Kyrie for like a Damian Lillard or somebody like that. You can do all sorts of things.
Now, when's the day you have to announce? When's the day this stuff starts?
Well, LeBron has to opt out. Tell Cleveland he's opting out or in by July or June 29th, okay. I believe it is. So Boston, I think, is great. Philly, I think, is great in the East. And then San Antonio. I've long said if it's just basketball, go to San Antonio. Now, I think Boston, because they're in the East, maybe has a slight advantage. But San Antonio would be great. I don't think he'd go to a non-glamour city, so I don't think he's even thinking about San Antonio.
They got the Riverwalk.
But basketball-wise, Colin, that there is not a better situation other than Boston
Chris,
being in the East.
Who's their backcourt?
It doesn't. If you had LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and LaMarcus Aldridge and Greg Popovich, Popovich makes very good productive players out of guys that go. Gary Neal, when he left. He was almost MVP of a finals or something. He hit a bunch of threes. When he left San Antonio, you never heard from him again. Patty Mills was out of the league. Now he's playing great basketball in San Antonio. DeJounte Murray's not bad, and he's represented by Rich Paul. So, I mean, I would put them right there with Golden State.
Oh, come on.
Right away. No question. And then the Lakers, though, if he can get Paul and George there.
You guys are all banging on the Lakers. That Lonzo kid can deal.
He'd probably be gone, though, if they get LeBron, Chris Paul, and Paul George.
His dad's on the show tomorrow. That's my first question. I think, and I'm not joking here. I think it's 50-50 Lonzo's out of town. I really do.
Because of LeBron.
Because LeBron's coming.
If they don't get LeBron, he'll stay.
He'll stay. But I think it's a 50-50 proposition.
It's based on LeBron.
I really do.
I don't know that. Well, I don't know if LeBron would demand that he be gone or not.
I don't think he'd have to.
They just know.
That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
But don't go anywhere.
Okay.
All right. Take a break. Back in a second. Chris Broussard. Don't be the guy in the room with the long, sloppy-looking untucked shirt. Go to untuckit.com. Code HERD, H-E-R-D. 20% off. They also have 25 retail shops in America. Untuckit.com. Code HERD. Chris Broussard is joining us. I want to go back before we go to a couple of other things. LeVar Ball, I was told this morning, is on the show tomorrow. And about a month ago on a Saturday morning, I opened up the L.A. Times, and there was a huge story that clearly the Lakers wanted in the newspaper, which said, everybody is available, everybody's on the trading block. Things land in the L.A. Times or the Philadelphia News or the Chicago Tribune or the Dallas Morning News or the New York Times because somebody wants them in there, and they want the teams and the players and the appropriate people to read them. You just mentioned something. Here's the story, by the way. Our guys just put it up. Lakers want to build around young core, but have told teams no players untouchable in trades. And out of the blue, it lands Saturday morning in the L.A. Times. Jason Whitlock theorized they were telling LeVar, zip it or your son's gone. Do you think that's too hyperbolic or true?
It might be slightly hyperbolic, but look, he's not untouchable. Nobody on that team should be or is untouchable. And I think under the scenario I painted earlier, LeBron, Chris Paul as free agents, Paul George as a trade asset, that Lonzo probably would be in that trade to Oklahoma City. Can you imagine that for LeVar? Going from L.A. to Oklahoma City. That'd be amazing. But if I'm OKC and I risk losing Paul George for nothing, or I can get maybe Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, who knows what else. I don't know, Julius Randle, whatever. But you do that. So I think there's a decent chance Lonzo could be on the move. He could stay if they get LeBron and Chris Paul too, but he probably would be in some sort of trade.
He would, or have a massively reduced role because LeBron and Chris Paul want to handle the rock.
And you want shooters with them, which obviously Lonzo is not.
Colin right, Colin wrong, top of the hour. We were talking about, this is an all-time team. You have your top 5 dynasties of all time. Now, some of these will outdate a majority of my audience, but I don't think you can deny number 1 for you, which is Bill Russell and the Celtics. Go down the list and explain why you have teams where you have them.
Russell and the Celtics went to 11 finals in 13 years. They went 11-1 in the finals. Michael Jordan's Bulls, the only team on this list or period in NBA history to be a dynasty and never lose in the finals. Even the Celtics with Russell lost 1. Jordan 6-0, obviously the greatest player of all time, and so on and so forth. Showtime Lakers, the Magic and Kareem, they went to 8 finals in 10 years, won 5 of them. Obviously 2 of the top probably 5 players of all time. A great supporting cast. I mean, James Worthy, Michael Cooper, Byron Scott, all those guys. So got the Lakers there. Number 4, Shaq and Kobe, 3-peated. And those 3 years they won it, Shaq was arguably the most dominant force we've ever seen in basketball.
Chris, it was interesting. I always look at the Warriors as a little like Shaq and Kobe. With Russell was the dominant scorer. Then you can have, a K.C. Jones, a John Havlicek, whatever. And then Michael Jordan, you have Batman and Scotty's Robin, right? And Lakers, there was the big fella down low, Kareem, but Magic was controlling the tempo. Shaq and Kobe were arguably at that time the 2 best finishers in the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was a young, athletic Kobe. That was an unbelievable team. And then you have the Warriors at 5.
Warriors at 5. They've won 3 out of 4. If they win next year, 4 out of 5, they would certainly jump ahead of the Shaq Kobe Lakers, and they would perhaps even jump ahead of Showtime to number 3 because you get 4 and 5 years. Magic, and Kareem never did that. Magic and Kareem got swept 1 year in the finals when they both were still in their prime. Kareem, that was 83 by Moses Malone and Dr. J. And Magic and Kareem never 3-peated. They repeated, which was a big deal when they did it because in 1987-88, nobody in almost 20 years had repeated. So that was big. But 3 straight, 4 and 5 years, and still climbing. Golden State would climb my charts if they win it next year.
I want to play a Steve Kerr bite because we have this feeling that it's rainbows, pots of gold, and chirping and ice cream. But Steve Kerr said this was a hard year. Let's play this.
It's definitely the toughest from the standpoint that, it's the 4th year in a row that we've attempted to get back to the finals. 3 years ago was, I can't believe this happened. And now I can definitely believe this happened, but it was hard. And it gets more and more difficult as you go through. Next year will be even tougher. I may not show up until All-Star break because they're not going to listen to me anyway. So, thank you.
Are you surprised by that?
No, not by what he said. I was, because Pat Riley even said it. Sometimes they just need a new voice.
Oh, yeah.
When he was with the Showtime Lakers.
Yes.
As we said earlier, the Jordan won 3, then took a break, 3 more, then took another break. It's hard. I think it's even harder when you keep winning than if you win, lose, win, because if you lose every year or 2 or 3, you're motivated to come back, okay, we got to reclaim the crown. When you keep winning, especially in blowout fashion, yeah, you're motivated to win another ring, but you're not motivated by your competition. And so I think that's what the challenge, that's why he let, some of the players coach games. He's looking for all these ways to keep the guys invested. Now, what surprised me more so was David West, who came out and said after they won it, you guys don't even know what was going on
now,
here.
What do you think he means by that?
I don't know, and I haven't seen reports about it. Now, there were rumblings during the conference finals and early in the finals that Kevin Durant wasn't happy in Golden State.
And then he addressed those.
Yeah, and he said he's going to re-sign. So I was wondering about, could that be something? But I don't know. I don't know what exactly he's talking about. But a dynasty, the only thing that could take them down is really themselves.
Injury or I pick Boston to win it next year. I think they'll be the second best roster, and they'll be more coachable, hungrier, fresher. I think you play these extra 20 games 3 and 4 years in a row, I think it wears you out.
That's true. That's true. Boston will be tough. It's going to be so interesting to see
my
where
God.
LeBron
The next
goes.
month is going to be LeBron's the most fascinating free agent in the history of the national basketball.
This one might be even more fascinating than 2010. Maybe.
Oh, God, yes.
2010 was huge,
let me tell you something.
There's
a domino effect with LeBron. I mean, this next month's going to be great. Chris Broussard, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong, next on a Monday in L.A. It's The Herd. Hour 2. This is The Herd, wherever you may be. And however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Great to have you in. And we do it every Monday at this time. Chris Mannix in 30 minutes from now, a guy, senior writer, Yahoo Sports, has all sorts of information. I take big swings, big cuts during the week. Sometimes I strike out. Sometimes they land. Here we go, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong on a Monday.
Where Colin was right?
KD's decision to leave Oklahoma City. People bashed him. People gave Westbrook all sorts of love. But from day one, I said loyalty is overrated. In life, in sports, seize opportunities. Walk through doors they rarely open. By the way, last 2 years, Westbrook has unraveled in the first round. Westbrook has looked worn out in the first round. We know he's tough to play with, and we know Oklahoma City coddled the wrong guy. Kevin Durant warned the franchise several times. He's tough to play with. I don't get the quality shots. He left. He won. Westbrook's become unglued. We knew it. We said it. It happened.
Where Colin was wrong.
I still can't figure out how the Patriots became the noisiest team in the NFL. Friday, major story that Gronk was about to be traded, and Tom Brady threatened to retire if Gronk was traded, so they pulled back. Gronk called it fake news, but it's more drama. It never ends. Here's more smoke. Still shocked at this offseason. It's been a conveyor belt of stories, and I think in most cases, they're mostly true. Malcolm Butler not playing in a Super Bowl and Belichick not informing the players has had a reverb effect that it still shocks me. It still shocks me. Game came down to a fumble. If Tom Brady had better protection, they win the Super Bowl on that play. Instead, he fumbles. Philly gets it, and he never gets the chance. Once again this weekend, where there's smoke, there's fire, and a Gronk story came out of nowhere, so my gut feeling is there was some validity to it, that Gronk was about to be traded, and Brady stepped in and said, do it, I'm out, which I do believe Brady now is closer to that than he was 2 years ago.
Where Colin was right?
I kept saying over and over, the Game 1 officiating ruined this finals. And I said it 4 days in a row, and you kept banging on me saying, you're making too big of a deal out of it. And I said, no, I'm not. It ruined the series. Cleveland's only hope was Game 1. That could get into the head of the Warriors. We saw the Warriors against Houston. You can get into their head a little bit. It's a bunch of megastars
worth a lot of money. They got their vanity and their egos. You get into their head a little bit, little self-doubt. Kevin Durant kind of melted down in the fourth quarter against the Rockets, and Cleveland had him. And the refs did something that I think is outrageous and egregious and I'd never seen done before. They reversed a judgment call with another judgment call against the game's best players. It would have never happened to Michael Jordan. And there was no juice in Games 3 Wednesday and in Game 4 Friday. The games had absolutely no juice. The ratings, by the way, were down in Game 4. So this was not a great ratings finals. It wasn't just a sweep. If Cleveland wins Game 1, even if they lose in 5, it would have meant massive juice in Games 2, 3, and 4. Refs killed it. It's why I wouldn't let it go. And I think in the end, LeBron acknowledged punching a wall, it really stole the emotion. It was a gut kick by the refs on the Cavs.
Where Colin was wrong.
I said about a week ago I was starting to really believe this LeBron to the Philadelphia 76er thing. Chris Broussard had me really into it. But man, Brian Colangelo mess, GM's wife on Twitter, it feels like they've lost all momentum. And now you see connect the dot after dot after dot after dot with stories coming out of Los Angeles. I think I jumped the gun on Philadelphia. I still think Philadelphia and LeBron would be an amazing fit, but I don't think it's going to happen, and it feels less so today than it did a week ago.
Where Colin was right.
By the way, LeBron James, 82 games, played all of them. Playoffs, played all of them, averaged over 40 minutes. In the NBA Finals, led all players averaging 45 minutes. And by the way, he played with mostly a broken hand or something close to it in the last 3 games. He is, without question, the most durable and remarkable professional athlete the NBA has ever had. I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan, but we have visual evidence now. Take a look right there on your TV screen. If that's not busted, it's something. It is absolutely remarkable that in his 15th year, he plays all 82 games, leads the NBA in minutes, goes to the playoffs, plays every game, leads everybody in minutes, goes to the finals, leads everybody in minutes, and oh, by the way, played with a broken hand, and you didn't know until it was done. Best player, I don't know. Most remarkable and durable athlete in NBA history. I've been saying it for years. When they write the book on LeBron, that better be chapter 1 or chapter 2.
Where Colin was wrong.
You know, Vegas is generally right. U.S. Open starts Thursday, and Tiger Woods is 16-1. Those are really good odds. That's the 4th best of any golfer in this tournament. That surprises me. He's up there with Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. I got to be honest. I'm shocked by it. First of all, I think his body's more fragile than it's ever been, and I don't think he can put together great round after round after round after round, 4 great rounds mentally. His putter went in the tank last tournament. But Las Vegas likes him at the U.S. Open. I mean, they're putting him on the leaderboard with the best guys in the world, and I don't see it. I don't think his body's right, and I don't think he can put together 4 intense days of intellectual golf, emotional golf, being totally focused and locked in. I don't see it. But Vegas is right a lot more than they're wrong, and I'm wrong as much as I am right. So Tiger Woods being these kind of odds out of Vegas for the U.S. Open this weekend, starts Thursday, shocks me.
Where Colin was right.
Had T.O. on last week. I've criticized him for years, not because he's not a great player. I also think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I've said he's needy. He's high maintenance. It's like a teenage girl on Instagram. He is just ridiculously hard to manage. He came on the show and denied it, but did you see the story that enveloped over the weekend? He refuses to go to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. He's going to have a private party. Once again, the greatest honor in sports, and T.O. wants to be about me, look at me, spectacle about me. He pushed back last week on the show when I confronted him on this. I think there were concerns about you in locker rooms at times being needy. That you wanted to be heard constantly, and I think
I never wanted to be heard constantly. I was very, very competitive.
I've thought there have been times when you've been a little needy for me. For me.
Well, I mean, to be the best, you have to be a little needy. You have to be a little selfish.
Totally disagree. Larry Fitzgerald is not needy. Calvin Johnson was not needy. Russell Wilson doesn't feel needy.
I don't buy that to be the best, Joe Montana had to be needy, Jerry Rice had to be needy. I do not believe that to be true in the NFL. Maybe in other sports, not in the NFL. And secondly, he always says it's about passion. I'm passionate. Is skipping the Hall of Fame induction ceremony about passion? No, it's about being high maintenance. Look at me. I'm special. Treat me better. This is why many people did not want him in the Hall of Fame. I wasn't one of them, but this is the reason why.
Where Colin was right?
We said last week, when the story came out that the Philadelphia 76ers had hired a law firm to question Brian Colangelo, the GM, we said, we don't need a law firm. You got to move on. If a general manager's got a wife that is on Twitter banging on players and giving out private information, law firms saying I don't know are not good enough. You need a clean slate when you get into the LeBron sweepstakes. And that's not a clean slate. So we said, you got to get rid of him. I don't know him. I know his dad. His dad's an all-timer. And I think Brian will get another job. But you got to move, and you got to move fast, because my belief is once that series ended Friday between the Cavs and the Warriors, LeBron is judging everything about every team, and it was time to move. Where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong on a Monday. Let me address this. Every sport, every league has an issue. In Major League Baseball, analytics are making the game more boring. In the NFL, the concussion issue, a lot of moms don't want their sons playing football. The NBA, most people think the issue is, well, the Warriors are too good. But we just saw the Rockets take them 7. I think Boston next year, if they're healthy, is good enough to beat Golden State. And if LeBron and Chris Paul and Harden join in Houston or they move to Los Angeles, that doesn't worry me. I don't think the dynasty, but I'll tell you what does worry me about the NBA, utter imbalance. Now think about this. If LeBron goes west, and there's a very, very strong likelihood, Vegas says now Houston 1 and the Lakers 2. So if LeBron goes west, here's the top 10 players in the NBA. LeBron's number 1 out west. Now, he could be a Laker. He could be a Rocket. He could be a Spur. Number 2 is Kevin Durant, west. Number 3 is Anthony Davis. That would be west. Number 4 would be Steph Curry. That would be west. Number 5 would be James Harden, west. Giannis is probably 6 east. Then Westbrook 7 plays in the west. Kawhi Leonard is the best two-way player outside of LeBron in the league. He's number 8. He's west. Kyrie Irving, I'll give you 9. Damian Lillard, 10. 8 of the top 10 are in the west. Here's the worst part. All-NBA first team is all in the west. The All-NBA first team, it's all Western players. Adam Silver has to be rooting against that. Adam Silver has to be rooting against LeBron going to Houston, joining Chris Paul and James Harden. If that's what happened, now think about that. In one series, you would have Chris Paul, Harden, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph, Clay, and Draymond. 7 of the top, 15, 16 players in the NBA in one series, out west 2 teams. That is not good for the NBA. I don't have a problem with the Warriors because I do think that dynasty ends sooner than later. But you go to the top 10 players in the NBA, 8 of the 10 are west if LeBron moves west. And even when I went to the top 20 and I went 11 through 20, I'll put Joel Embiid at number 11 and I'll put his teammate Ben Simmons at number 12. Again, my list has Simmons higher, but I'm just going what the large macro overview of the league is. And then you go 13's Klay Thompson, 14's Chris Paul, 15's Paul George, 16 Jimmy Butler, 17 I'll put Karl Anthony Towns, 18 Draymond Green, 19 LaMarcus Aldridge, 20 Devin Booker, 16 to 20 in the West. That's not good. And if he goes to Houston, it is really not good. And that Adam Silver, now you have the Sixers and the Celtics, but let's be honest, both those teams have injury concerns. Kyrie Irving couldn't stay healthy in college or the pros. He couldn't stay healthy at Duke. He couldn't stay healthy at Cleveland. Can't stay healthy in Boston. And Joel Embiid's played 4 years, 2.5. He can't play. He's hurt.
So, I mean, all these leagues have issues. Baseball's got analytics. It's getting really boring. Nobody's on base. More strikeouts than hits. Football, you got a concussion issue where a lot of moms, youth football, pulling back, don't want my kids playing. Guys retiring early. But in basketball, you have a complete and utter imbalance east and west if LeBron moves. And my gut feeling is he does. He does. And a couple of the stars out east, I like Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid. They got major injury concerns. That's not good for any league, that type of imbalance. Chris Mannix is around the corner. Say goodbye to the grocery store. Hello to HelloFresh. Healthy ingredients, follow recipes, very easy. Ship to your door, limited time, $30 off your first box. Free shipping, HelloFresh.com/Colin.
Tiger Woods is back, and he's ready to take on the greatest golfers in the world at the 118th U.S. Open. Live coverage begins Thursday from Shinnecock Hills on Fox, FS1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
2 o'clock, just shy of 2 o'clock on Thursday, 1:47 actually. Tiger Woods has got Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson in his group, so that'll be crazy. Vegas has him at 16-1 odds. That just seems like too great of odds for Tiger Woods, who hasn't really put 4 great rounds together. It's all physical, but it's also a big part of it's mental. He struggled on the greens. I don't see it. Vegas does. Let me connect the dots here. Now, a lot of you have said, Colin, you've been on this LeBronzo thing for a year. Well, yeah, I think it makes sense. LeBron's got 2 homes here. It's the entertainment capital of the world. If you were sitting in my chair, you'd probably give them an early lead, too. He's not going to move to San Antonio. What, for the Riverwalk? To be in a rigid system with Popovich? I mean, I don't buy into San Antonio at all. I never have. I'll get to that later. But let me just connect some dots here. So Dwayne Wade is LeBron James' best friend. He was on with Chris Mannix on radio. What did LeBron's best friend say? Listen for yourself.
Obviously, he's shown this year he could get to the finals. No matter what the circumstances are. I don't really think for him the basketball decision of saying, "Oh, let me go team up with 3 All-Stars." And I think at this point in his life, it's more so of a lifestyle thing of where my family going to be the most comfortable at, where I'm going to be the happiest at. Because basketball-wise, he's so great, he can bring along and take along whoever.
Okay, well, what does that sound like? If lifestyle's number one, you've been to Philadelphia in the winter? You've been to Los Angeles in the winter? Where's the one where they have Netflix, Amazon? All these television networks. If it's lifestyle, he's going to L.A. You're not going to San Antonio for lifestyle. You're not going to Philadelphia or Boston for lifestyle. If it's about lifestyle, his best friend says, yeah, it's sort of lifestyle. That would say Los Angeles. Forget the homes. Forget that he's looked at the schools. Forget that it's a natural fit. Forget that he's always loved. Magic Johnson's always been his favorite player. He now runs the Lakers. I'm not trying to be a homer here, but just figure it out. It's not that difficult. The second thing is, after the finals, LeBron talked to a bunch of reporters. Notice the 2 reporters that he called by their name, personalized it. The 2 reporters, one had a big story on LeBron before finals. Another one had a big story on LeBron during the finals. So listen to this.
But I'm wondering what playing with the word Cleveland across your chest has meant to you for this second run.
Guys like this brace, huh? I don't even know where I was, Rach. I'm sorry. Next question. I'm sorry.
Whatever you decide this summer, how likely is it that down the road you would want to actually own the Cavs and be the guy in charge here?
I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, Mark, I think for me, staying around the game, being around the game will be something I'll probably do for the rest of my life.
Okay, so Rachel Nichols, she drops the story before the series. They have a relationship. They're friends. He trusts her. He can obviously trust her. She drops the story. Basically saying, I'm tired of Cleveland. They did things I didn't like. And then Mark Stein, as we got ready for Game 4, he called him Mark, breaks the story. That whole Chris Paul LeBron thing may end up in Los Angeles. I'm not saying LeBron's telling anybody, but LeBron has a camp. And his camp notified Rachel Nichols LeBron would like a sit down. LeBron would be willing to talk. He delivers his message. And then during the series, as they're getting behind 2-0, 3-0, and they're going to get swept. And Mark Stein, who I know, trust, respect, he drops that Chris Paul LeBron thing could end up in Los Angeles. All I'm saying is stuff that gets out for a reason. So I got D. Wade, his buddy, saying this. I got this reporter. I got that reporter. So if you're sitting in my chair, yes, Los Angeles does feel like a place. I don't think he's moving to San Antonio, even though it perhaps is a better basketball situation. I think Houston's second. But you start, drip. It's the old drip, 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 drip effect. When I start seeing the drip, 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 eventually the faucet opens. And I don't think you can undersell this. He can take Paul George or Chris Paul to L.A. He can't take Paul George to Houston. And I would argue that if he goes to Houston, some of the finances are, you talk about top 3 guys making all the money on a roster. And no bench, not a lot of depth, one injury, and Chris Paul's been more injured last several years from not being a team that can beat Golden State. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So it's been an interesting offseason for the Cowboys, especially in regards to their receiving core. It's going to look a lot different last year to this year. Yeah. They released Des Bryant. Jason Witten retired. They lost Bryce Butler to free agency, but they also signed Allen Hurns. Their quarterback, Dak Prescott, however, is not fazed by the changes. He said he likes the pieces they have right now. Take a listen.
There's definitely still some big voices in that locker room, and there's definitely a lot of energy in that locker room. And that's part of being a young team. So, it's different, but it's not bad. It's actually great, and it's a lot of good energy, and we like what we have.
I actually think that Dak is better when he doesn't have to focus on someone, because I don't think he's that kind of quarterback. I think he's better when he can just spread the ball around, look for the open guy, and just throw him. Do you think he has a bounce-back year in 2018?
Yeah, I think it's overstated. I think the Cowboys' weakness at wide receiver is massively overstated.
Yeah.
And I think the Seahawks and the Ravens have gotten to Super Bowls recently with average wide receiving cores, and I don't think you need a number one. Atlanta did, and New England beat them. I think the wide receiver thing is overstated. I think Dallas is absolutely good enough. I will call Dallas what I called Philadelphia last year at this time. Team good enough to win their division and a dark horse for the Super Bowl. And I felt strongly about Philadelphia and everybody laughed at me. I feel the same way about Dallas.
Can we jot that down in the back? Are we recording
Jot it down in the back, whatever the back is, yes.
Speaking of the Cowboys, it looks like there is a feud between Cowboys' former Hall of Fame wide receivers, Michael Irvin and Terrell Owens. Irvin obviously had his off-the-field issues during his time with the Cowboys, but he also was about as good as it could be on the field and being their top receiver for 3 Super Bowl wins. Yeah. Michael Irvin, in talking about Terrell Owens' boycott of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, says it's beyond his comprehension that T.O. would boycott this ceremony. Here's what Irvin said.
But I want to tell, all people, anybody going to Hall, it's not about the voters. Don't give the voters the pleasure of knowing that they meant that much to you, that when you finally got in, that you're not even showing up. And the whole while you campaigned about being in. When he did not get in, he and I was shooting a commercial together one time, and he came to the commercial with a Hall of Fame gold jacket with all of his records on it. So you went and made a made-up gold jacket, but you won't show up to get the real gold jacket?
T.O. has since made some unflattering comments towards Michael Irvin since then.
He did.
Yeah, we don't need to get into all of those. Isn't T.O. what he's doing exactly the reason why everyone didn't vote him into the Hall of Fame right away?
Yeah, this is Jason Whitlock's problem. He's the worst teammate in league history. Yeah. That was Jason Whitlock's assertion. I still think T.O.'s a Hall of Famer, but my knock was it was needy, and by getting inducted in and not going to the induction ceremony, it's needy.
It's kind of why he wasn't first ballot.
Listen, you just go to these things, even if they're tedious. And by the way, of all the Hall of Fames in the world, the football Hall of Fames are really good Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of Hall of Fames that, the radio Hall of Fame's not quite as prestigious. But when it comes to like the NFL Hall of Fame, that's top of the food chain. You go to the induction ceremony.
Sure. And finally, all the talk this offseason will be obviously about where LeBron James will end up in free agency. Some reports last week suggested LeBron would visit the Warriors, which obviously got people a little scared. There was also a report, there's a new report, from Yahoo Sports that there's a very slim chance LeBron would go to either the Warriors or the Boston Celtics, which I know Chris Broussard brought up on our show earlier. Do you think there is some attraction, though, for LeBron to stay in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's so easy to get to the finals.
Yeah. I mean, good God, if Danny Ainge called and said, you want to play with Jason Tatum and Al Horford and, blah, 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 and it's like,
we might figure out that Kyrie thing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier. I mean, there's no getting. Listen, if LeBron doesn't want to play 82 games again, he did it this year for a reason. I think LeBron wants to scale back to 70. He proved his point. He can do it. Lead the league in minutes, games. Yeah, I think the East is really attractive. Look how good Minnesota's roster is. They're trying to win a second playoff series. I mean, look how good, Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, Rondo. They got a lot of good players. They get whacked. It's hard to win a Westbrook, Paul George, Melo, Steven Adams can't get out of the first round. You're not sweeping your way to the Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals. You're just not even this year. Warriors were taking 7. Yeah. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Car shopping can be confusing. A lot of terms, dealer price, list price. Here's what's not. Saving $3,000 off MSRP. He's a senior writer, Yahoo Sports. Former senior writer, Sports Illustrated. We love having him on, covering the NBA for 15 years. Chris Mannix, who we get in town. He's usually in Boston. Now, what brings you out here?
A fight last Saturday night. Showtime did some work for them at the Staples Center. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Mixing it up. Doing a little boxing.
You're doing a little boxing?
Do a little boxing in between, yeah.
Oh, all right. Good for you. So let's start with this. LeBron's hand injury. Everybody's showing the video. It's fake. It's just, come on, give me a break. I have a hard time buying that it's fake.
I don't think it's fake. I think the whole thing was exacerbated to a ridiculous degree.
Okay.
Like, it leaking out in the immediate aftermath was one thing, but going to the press conference with it in a cast in your hand, I mean, I'll join the chorus of people that think that is just goofy. I mean, he could have gone to the press conference without it. He could have confirmed the reports that were out there, and then when he got into his car, 15 minutes later, he could have slipped a cast onto his hand if that was necessary. The whole thing struck me as excuse making, when the reality is, I mean, he could have had like the hand of Thanos on his, going, and they wouldn't have beaten Golden State in that series. It's all irrelevant.
By the way, there's talk about what happened after Game 1 in the locker room. You've got sources. What did happen after Game 1?
Well, from everything I was told, he did pretty strongly punch a whiteboard or something on the wall that you could write on there. That caused the initial injury, but the anger in the locker room, people that were there were telling me that he was just livid in that moment, just cursing, calling it the worst loss of his career, just furious. And that sort of plays in, Colin, to you go back to the video from the going into overtime, how he just didn't pick up his teammates in that moment, didn't say the right thing to J.R. Smith. In the locker room after the game, you would hope that a leader on a team would say, guys, let's erase it, shrug it off, throw it in the trash. We got a game 2 to win. From what I was told, that really wasn't the attitude. It was more anger than anything else.
Well, yeah, and I said this. Leadership is defined by crisis. Like when you hit turbulence, that's when the great pilot says, we got to land this bird. This was a pilot, and I love LeBron, but this was a pilot basically saying, oh my God, I can't land the plane. I'm freaking out. And I mean, part of me says, I totally get it. It's just built up. He's frustrated with Dan Gilbert, the roster, Kobe Altman. And another part says, dude, it's one game. It's you can't melt down like this. I thought the video came out a couple of days later of that huddle in between the fourth and overtime. And I said, as much as I like LeBron, it looks like a pilot freaking out in the middle of a lightning storm.
I don't think he could have handled that moment worse.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think you sit there and you've got J.R. Smith. You know J.R.'s a little wacky, but you've got J.R. Smith sitting next to you. And the best thing to do is say, JR, shake it off. You didn't lose the game for us. We're going to overtime.
That's right. It was tied.
We're going to overtime. We need you to make the shots you need to make. And then the body language on bending over after learning there was a timeout, and then not putting his hand in the middle immediately when Ty Lue stuck his hand out there and said, let's go, here we go, team. The whole thing. Nobody could have walked out of that huddle, none of the Cavaliers, thinking they were going to win the game.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't win anyway, but nobody left that huddle with any form of confidence.
Okay, I'm going to take a break because you interviewed Dwayne Wade this weekend. We got a lot of things to unpack unpack here with Chris Mannix. Did you interview D-Wade yesterday?
Yesterday.
Okay, and you also have very unique and strong ties to the Boston Celtics because you do their games on cable.
Yep.
There are something surfaced last week with the Celtics, and I had never considered them a possibility, but when stuff comes out, nobody's going to have more than you are. So Chris Mannix on the other side. A lot to unpack here with LeBron. Dahntay Jones last hour. Falling into bed, whole new meaning when you go to Casper.com, code HERD. Code gets you $50 off select mattresses. They ship it for free. 100 nights sleep on it. Don't like it, they'll take it out for free. Chris Mannix joining us, senior writer, Yahoo Sports. Is there a downside? We got a lot of things here. Is there a downside to getting into the LeBron sweepstakes and meetings?
I think there is, and I think for the first time maybe in the history of LeBron's free agency, you're going to see teams really think about whether they even want to take a meeting. Now, look at it from the Golden State stuff. Now, I think I'm highly skeptical that LeBron would ever go there. But if you're the Golden State Warriors and LeBron says, I want a meeting with you, who do you bring to that meeting? You're not bringing the Hamptons forward there because those guys, two of them probably have to go to get LeBron James on the roster. You're probably going to have to move Klay Thompson and move Draymond Green just to fit him in there. Same thing with Boston. Who do you bring to that meeting? You're not bringing Kyrie Irving to that meeting. That wouldn't go all that well. Gordon Hayward might have to go if you just to clear room for LeBron's contract. I mean, Golden State, LeBron could screw with them a little bit. He could he could ask for a meeting, and if they say no, they're passing on a meeting with LeBron James. If they say yes, maybe there's a message maybe that's a message you send to the rest of the guys in your locker room that you don't think having Klay and Draymond makes you good enough, that you think those guys are expendable. So if I'm Bob Myers and if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm thinking twice before I even take that meeting because of the message it could send to my team.
Let's move to Boston, where you work on the broadcast, a lot of Celtic broadcasts for the cable network out there. So you are, not only by proximity, but by your career, you have a unique access to this organization. You're walking and talking to Danny and Brad and all those guys. I didn't think Boston was a player. And then all of a sudden last week, I start seeing stories on Boston, and I'm like, LeBron in his dramatic fashion, oh, Kyrie, you're going to divorce me. How about I move you out of town? Do you buy any of this Celtic stuff?
I don't. Largely because this team is not only equipped to win a championship next year, they're equipped with guys that are under contract, Kyrie excluded, for the next 6-7 years.
Yep.
You look at some of the younger guys. The guys don't turn down second-year contracts. Tatum, Brown, they're here for the long term. LeBron, until he proves otherwise, is a 1+1 type of guy. So do you really dismantle your team, shake it up completely for a guy that may only be there for 1 year? It's the same thing with Golden State. If these two teams are championship teams right now, without LeBron James, they're favorites, co-favorites to win. Why would you break it up? The first question I'd ask, if it's Rich Paul or Maverick Carter who says, LeBron wants a meeting with you, or LeBron will take a meeting with you, you say, what kind of contracts are you going to sign? If it's 1+1 or even 2 years, see ya. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
If it's 4, maybe you have a conversation. But Boston right now is in the best place maybe of any team in the league outside of Golden State to win championships.
I said this, Chris. I said this, Chris Mannix joining us, and I said it 6 months ago, and I said it again this morning. I think Boston wins it next year.
I'm with you. Right there.
By the way, I believe 2 championships is 3, and I'll give you my theory on this quickly, is that social media and the new CBA has made players richer faster. When people get rich, they get less patient. They get more empowered. Social media is also telling players, talk politics, have a voice. You're great, pat in the back. I believe 2 title runs is now 3. Is that, by the way, the Lakers, Shaq and Kobe broke up, Michael Jordan, Pippen, because they became rock tours. Mm-hmm. The Warriors are now a rock tour. The guys are good looking. They're funny. They're smart. They're social. It's Kerr. I think they come in next year. They're already a tad fractured. We hear the David West comments where he said, you got no clue. It tells you about this team. Nothing came out. Sean Livingston says, shout out to Steve Kerr for dealing with our BS this year. I think Boston's not quite as good, but I think they're fresher, more coachable, hungrier, potentially healthier, don't have playoff fatigue. You agree with me?
I agree with you for the most part, but I think the Warriors' problems are rectifiable through their bench. One thing that people in Golden State were telling me in the aftermath of the finals is that they're going to go to work on that bench this offseason. And one way to to increase the hunger that you're talking about in that locker room is to bring in the 2018 version of David West, to bring in a Sean Livingston type, guys that are in their 30s that have not won championships. You want guys, you can't make the starting lineup any hungrier. They've won, 2 championships, 3 championships. They're kind of locked in. But if you rebuild that bench with guys that want to win, that need to win, that are in the back end of their careers, I think that'll make the regular season a little bit less fractured like it was. Make things a little easier to get through the regular season. And once you get to the playoffs, these guys are motivated. You just have to get through the 82, and changing that bench is the best way to do it.
Chris, you have some interesting intel. Russell Westbrook, I tweeted it this weekend. I was at dinner with somebody Friday. The person I was at dinner with lives in a nice neighborhood and said, hey, Russell Westbrook just bought a house 4 down from us. It's a really beautiful house. Now, it's the same neighborhood LeBron James lives in. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with basketball. They just both, when you make that kind of money, you put your money in houses and neighborhoods that don't lose their value. So Russell Westbrook, good, and LeBron James are good with real estate. But you've got some interesting information. There is a sense that Paul George, who has a place north of L.A. in Calabasas, is a Laker already. But your sourcing says Westbrook's doing something he's never done before.
Well, I think from what I'm told, he and George have been working out together at various times this offseason.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if they're spending all that time talking about contracts. I'm sure they're not. That's not Russell Westbrook's style. But I get the sense that Westbrook understands what Paul George means. That Paul George, if he walks away, his chances of doing anything productive in Oklahoma City are over. There's no more rabbits, Colin, for Sam Presti to pull out of his hat. There's no Victor Oladipo Sabonis trade that'll get you another star. It's going to be Russell Westbrook and the guys you saw last year that's going to be good enough just to get to the 7th or 8th seed in the playoffs. So they've been working out together at different times during the offseason. And you get the sense that Westbrook and George, that there's a desire to continue that relationship, to keep it going. Now, what does that mean come July 1st? I don't know. What does that mean when LeBron James gets involved and I'm sure communicates with Paul George about what he wants to do? I don't know. But I think there's more of a sense of urgency on the part of Russell Westbrook and others to try to get this done, try to convince Paul George to stay.
That's interesting. I mean, people think I'm overly critical of Westbrook, but you would acknowledge through your sources that he is different. He doesn't have a big group, right?
No, he's got his inner circle is 2, maybe 3. Like, that's it. He's got one of the tighter inner circles. His wife, his agent, maybe he's got a best friend out there that he opens things up to, but it's as tight as they get for an NBA superstar.
Okay, you interviewed D-Wade this weekend, Fox Sports Radio. Let me play the tape. D-Wade talking to Chris Mannix on his radio show. This is substantial. Let's play it.
I mean, I don't think it's a basketball thing. I mean, obviously he's shown this year he could get to the finals, no matter what the circumstances are, I don't really think for him the basketball decision of saying, oh, let me go team up with 3 All-Stars. And I think at this point in his life it's more so of a lifestyle thing of, where my family's going to be the most comfortable at, where I'm going to be the happiest at. Because basketball-wise, he's so great, he can bring along and take along whoever.
What do you make of that? Lifestyle sounds like L.A. to me.
It sounds like L.A. to me. That was my first thought. Of course, there has to be a second star that goes with him. LeBron James is not signing with the Lakers just to play with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. There's got to be somebody else that goes along with him. But as I'm listening to Dwayne talk, one of the things that occurs to me is Dwayne Wade didn't know LeBron was leaving Miami until the very last minute. I don't think Dwayne anticipated LeBron leaving Miami till the end. So it just increases the unpredictability of all this. I don't think anyone, even deep in LeBron's inner circle, even his agents, his close friends, I don't think they even know exactly what he's thinking. I completely agree. Dwayne has known LeBron as well as anybody in the NBA. I completely agree. Lifestyle is going to be a huge factor in all this. Family is going to be a huge factor in all this. But this guy is one of the most unpredictable free agents out there. He could go any number of different directions.
I like Daryl Morey, the Houston general manager. I have to believe at a macro level, Adam Silver does not want to see LeBron go to Houston. Can you imagine having in the Western Conference Finals Harden, Chris Paul, LeBron, KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond? You could have 6 or 7 of the best 15 players in the league. Do you think the commissioner is a little concerned if LeBron goes west about the imbalance
between the two conferences. You have television partners now. If LeBron goes west, Chris, nobody wants the Eastern Conference playoffs. Toronto doesn't count for our domestic ratings. Boston's nice, but if they play the Wizards or the Bucks, I wonder if the commissioner worries about some of this player mobility.
I think the commissioner worries about imbalance a lot. I think ideally in an NBA world, you want NFL level parity. You want 7 to 8 teams going into the playoffs saying, we can win a championship. Now, as it pertains to LeBron going to Houston, I think he's less concerned because we still exist in this Golden State bubble. So to find a team that can knock off Golden State, that can give you something fresh in the finals, LeBron going to Houston would at least present that opportunity, would give them a really competitive Western Conference Finals. Long term, I'm with you. He'd like to see 1-2 stars with every team. That's why he consistently brings up the hard cap. Did it twice at his press conference before Game 1. They want a hard cap in the NBA. Getting that through the union's another story, but they believe a hard cap is the only way to prevent these super teams from collecting.
So even if an owner wants to pay a luxury tax, you can't do it.
If you change it to make it a hard cap, all these luxury tax penalties wouldn't apply. Now you still have Golden State, which in 2019 is moving into a new building, not going to have a problem with that hard cap. Cleveland never has. Boston's ownership has said they're going to pay whatever it costs to keep that team together. The only way to prevent these at this point is to have a hard cap, but that's something that would be a brutal negotiation with the union.
Chris Mannix, great stuff. Good seeing you, man.
You too.
Yahoo Sports senior writer. Hey, if a shower, brushing your teeth, and doing your hair matters to you, well, first of all, it should. It's called hygiene. Go to dollarshaveclub.com, code HERD, dollarshaveclub.com, code HERD. Actually, it says /Colin, not HERD. Either way, $5, trial set, you're in. Hour 3 next. Hour 3, live in L.A. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. In 15 minutes, I got to tell you a great story. I'm not sure how many of you have heard this story, but it's a legendary story, and it's out today for a reason. It's really, it's a great story. I can't even imagine. If it happened today, I can't even imagine how it would be covered. But that's in 15 minutes. I want to get all the details for you. But the NBA season's done. LeBron was swept in the finals. So let me start there. I'm hearing a lot of this over the weekend. LeBron's got no heart. They quit. Cavaliers quit. Sweet, terrible, legacy, bad. So let's look at this. Let's add some context. Let's take a deep breath. Game 1, on the road, overtime loss. Game 2, blowout loss. Game 3, minute left, chance to win. Game 4, blowout loss. So 2 of the 4 games, minute left, in doubt. Now think about this. If I said to you going into this series, one team has 4 of the top 15 players in the world, home court advantage, better coach, younger, better, more athletic roster, probably deeper. And oh, by the way, the refs will give them a huge break in game 1 at home. How long do you think the series goes? Folks, yet in 2 of the 4 games with a minute left, you thought Cleveland had a real chance to win. I worked in Vegas for a while, covering boxing. Some fights need to be stopped early. That's not quitting. There's a reason you, me, the world thought it would be a sweep or a 5-gamer. Michael Jordan got swept twice in the first round. Did he quit? No, he was overwhelmed. Even Friday, the Cavs were down 3-0, nothing to play for, down by 18 first half, clawed back to take a 39-38 lead. And then what happened? Oh, I don't know. The team with the better coach, and the better bench, and the better roster, and the better players who got a break in game 1 from the officials, absolutely dinging the Cavs emotionally, went on to go on a big run and pull out a win and get a sweep. Never forget this. You and I all acknowledge, right? Everybody in the world acknowledges, even a guy living in New York, Philly, D.C., Boston. The West is way, way better than the East. And with that, in the last 2 years since Kevin Durant arrived in the Bay Area, they're 32-6 in the playoffs. That would be remarkable in the East. In the West, Minnesota's loaded with talent, struggling to win playoff series. Utah's good. Portland's good. New Orleans swept Portland. San Antonio's the Spurs. They're always quality. Houston, Golden State, and KD's 8-1 in the finals. KD and the Warriors 32-6 in the playoffs. This isn't about quitting. If I'd have laid out everything before the series and said, yeah, and you want to know that one-man team in 2 of the 4 games had a chance to win with a minute left. Folks, there is a reason that LeBron James, he wasn't faking it, punched a wall after game 1. Because LeBron knew that was his opening. That was the sliver of a chance he had. That was the only chance they had to get into the Warriors' head. And the refs pulled a David Copperfield and reversed it. And LeBron addressed that.
Self-inflicted. Post-game after game 1. Very emotional. For a lot of different reasons, understanding how important a game 1 is on the road for our ball club. What would that done for us? The way we played, the calls that was made throughout the course of that game. I had emotions on, the game was taken away from us. I had emotions of you just don't get an opportunity like this on the road versus Golden State to be able to get a game 1. And, I let the emotions get the best of me and pretty much played the last 3 games with a broken hand.
You can call it an excuse. Sometimes you got to stop a fight early. Sometimes it's a mismatch. There was a little tiny sliver of an opening, and the refs took it away. Let me shift to this. Sometimes something happens to all of us. It'll happen in your life. Maybe not now, maybe not yet, but it will. It will feel really, really painful in the moment. But big picture, long term, a year later, 10 years later, it was the best thing. A lot of people say that about divorces. Really, really painful. Kids, relationship, friends, property. But then 10 years later, we're both happier. I know what you're thinking right now. Kevin Durant crushed LeBron. In your face, LeBron. It's over. No. This is a great thing, big picture for LeBron. Because we just saw loyal LeBron, who went back home, get steamrolled by opportunistic, mobile Kevin Durant. All of us watched it on TV, the grandest stage. We just watched loyalty get thumped by mobility. That is a great thing. These finals are not the end of LeBron. Thankfully, they're the end of, quote, loyal guy. Let's see what we watched in the playoffs this year. Russell Westbrook is loyal, right? He stayed in Oklahoma City. I know it's not glamorous. I know it feels like a college town, but I stayed there. And for the second straight year, loyal Westbrook runs out of gas, arguing with fans, shot fighter, steamrolled in the first round of the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan, hey man, a lot of people wanted him. They did. I'm going to stay in Canada with that miserable tax rate and that cold weather in the winter. I am loyal, and I am getting swept again by LeBron. Loyal LeBron went back home, swept by Durant. Now let's look at opportunistic mobile guy that seizes opportunities when presented. Kevin Durant, another ring, another finals MVP. Chris Paul could have stayed in L.A. No, you said he'd never get big playoff win. Chris Paul, Western Conference Finals, they led 3-2. He would have been named MVP. Looked pretty good, didn't he? Changed a lot of eyes and ideas, didn't he? A lot of narratives died. A lot of stories died. Chris Paul, not clutch, died. By the way, Al Horford was Mr. Atlanta Hawk. He decided to upgrade. Next year, they'll be favorites to win the East and get to the NBA Finals. And it should also be noted next year, mobile and opportunistic Brad Stevens. Could have stayed in college, went pro. Mobile and opportunistic Gordon Hayward. Could have stayed in Utah, went to Boston. And mobile and opportunistic Kyrie, I'm going to ditch LeBron James, will be heavy favorites to get to the finals, especially if LeBron moves west. This finals was not the end of LeBron. It was the end of loyal guy. Loyalty is not rewarded in the NBA in 2018. It's not. You got to leave the zip code. You got to get on a plane, hopefully a private one with a rich owner who takes you to a team with a bunch of stars. Kevin Durant clobbering LeBron and J.R. Smith's boneheaded play are like that painful divorce the week you get divorced. Then a couple of years later, you're like, yeah, it kind of gave me an out. It kind of gave me an out, an excuse, a reason, and I'm much happier now. If LeBron doesn't leave, what is he, crazy? The Spurs want him. The Rockets want him. Philadelphia's got 2 stars want him. Los Angeles wants him. Yes, it looks awful what J.R. Smith did. It looks awful. But I'm watching KD win again, and you can be a hater and a doubter, but mobile guy, opportunistic guy, once again thumps loyal guy. Not the end for LeBron by a long shot. Opportunity. When it does, open the door and walk through it.
All right, coming up, I'm not sure how many of you have heard this story, but you got to come back and listen to this because it really is fantastic, and it's told by a guy who is legitimate. He's not a crazy person. He is a legitimate guy connected to Michael Jordan. That is right around the corner. I think you'll really like it.
The 2018 FIFA World Cup is coming to Fox and FS1 with every match live and over 300 hours of coverage. Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, and more. The world's biggest sporting event is just 3 days away right here on Fox and FS1.
Ronaldo and Portugal take on Spain Friday, and Ronaldo had he went on a scoring binge. I think he had 15 goals in 9 qualifying matches. So the world's best player, in my opinion, Ronaldo and Portugal take on Spain Friday here on Fox Sports FS1. Good stuff. So today, this is just a great story. Today is the 21st anniversary of the flu game. Now, that was the story. Michael Jordan, 1997 finals against the Utah Jazz. They're on the road in Utah. And Michael has this flu and this fever and then goes out and plays really well. And they win, and he's kind of carried off the court. But there's a story behind the flu game, and it comes from Tim Grover. Now, Grover was Michael Jordan's longtime trainer. Tim Grover is reputable, respected, has written a book. Look him up, buy it on Amazon. He tells the story. He said it wasn't the flu, it was food poisoning. He says 100%. He was poisoned for the flu game. Everybody called it the flu game. We didn't. We knew he was poisoned. He goes into further details. We were in Park City, Utah, which, by the way, is about 35 minutes up the hill from Utah. It's a nice ski resort. Room service had stopped at 9 o'clock. Michael got hungry. We couldn't find any other place to eat. So he said, let's call him. The only pizza place we could find that was open. So we ordered pizza. Now, we'd been there a while. Everybody in town knew we were at that hotel, said Tim Grover. Park City isn't as big then as it is now. So there weren't many hotels, and everybody knew Michael was here. So we ordered pizza, and 5 guys came to the door to deliver the pizza. 5 guys. I take the pizza and I tell him, I got a bad feeling about this, said Tim Grover. I just got a bad feeling about this, Michael. Out of everybody in the room, MJ was the only one who ate. Nobody else had any of it. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I get a call to my room. It's Michael, come to my room. He's curled up in the fetal position. We're looking at him, finding the team physician at that time. Immediately, I told him, this ain't the flu. This is food poisoning. That is my kind of story. I gotta be honest with you. It's Tim Grover is not a make stuff up guy. And they also won, so he's not making an excuse.
I've had food poisoning twice in my life. Never in Utah, but I've had it twice. That's a great story. John Goulet, great point. If Michael had the flu, wouldn't he have given it to everybody else? You don't give food poisoning to everybody else. You give the flu to everybody else. I'd love to get Tim Grover on. Can we get him on? I would totally trust Tim Grover. I think I met him once, but I've asked my buddies in the business. They're like, oh, yeah, Tim knows what he's doing. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of terms. Dealer price, list price, invoice. Here's what's not confusing. $3,000 off MSRP, new or used. Go to TrueCar.com and look into their true price. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
All right, try not to laugh at this one. According to a report by Brian Windhorst, Cavs owner Dan Gilbert is prepared for life after LeBron. He's looking forward to the challenge. In the report, Gilbert believes that he can build a championship team without LeBron and that he's looking forward to trying.
Okay.
I can't imagine he's actually looking forward to trying. That's not something you want to attempt.
Yeah.
How much faith would you say you have in Dan Gilbert to build a team without LeBron?
Well, the problem is they have 4 really bad contracts and none have team options. So
it's 2 more years of darkness.
Well, at least a year and a half. Now, you can trade those contracts, not next year, but the following year at the trading deadline. You can get rid of a Clarkson.
Sure.
You can get rid of a J.R. Smith. But those contracts for the next year, listen, in Las Vegas, if LeBron stays, Cleveland is 30-1 to win the title. If he leaves, they're 500-1. That puts him in the Sacramento, Phoenix, and Orlando group.
Sure. And you got to imagine they would ditch Kevin Love. That'd be the only guy worth value. The only difference is this time to last time is they have the 8th pick. So they're kind of starting their rebuild a year early.
Yeah, I mean, if you gave Kevin Love and an 8th pick, there's a lot of teams that would take that. But I think I would probably rather go with the 8th pick.
That's what I mean. You keep the 8. Like last time LeBron left, they didn't have a top pick to rely on. Remember, it was a year later they drafted Kyrie. At least now they can start.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant won his 2nd Finals MVP and 2nd title in 2 years. And while the Warriors might look unstoppable to some, it's not going to last forever. According to Kevin Durant, he has an end date for his career in mind, and it's when he turns 35. Which would just be in 2023. He'll be 30 before the next season. He said, quote, "This game, your craft, you have to continue studying it. No matter how much you enjoy it, nobody wants to be in school that long. I know I don't. At some point, you have to be ready to graduate. 35, that's just a number in my mind." Are you a little surprised? Kevin Durant has a game that he can shoot and he's tall. He can do that forever.
Yeah, I don't, this sounds crazy. And people are going to think I'm nuts, but I always think about this with pro athletes. You've been traveling for like 20, 25 years. Basketball is the centerpiece of your life. And I think a lot of times now that guys have $250, $300 million of net worth, you could live off the interest at 7%. Do you want to do that? I mean, I keep throwing this out and people think I'm nuts. I could see LeBron retiring for a year. I really could. And letting the dust settle and teams figure out what they're doing. Why is LeBron in a hurry? And letting his body mend a little bit. So I could see Durant at some point. I mean, Michael retired twice. What if Durant won another title next year and said, I'm taking a year off? It wouldn't shock me at all. You know how many CEOs, how many rock and roll stars, how many artists, musicians just kick it for a year, actors, and say, listen, man, I got years left, but I'm burned out. With guys having so much money now, I totally get the burned out thing.
Didn't DiCaprio do that right after he won his Oscar? Didn't he kind of take a break for a while?
Didn't take a year off and just relax, chill, travel the world, yeah.
And also Durant now is getting really big into angel investing and technology and stuff. He has other things he can spend his time doing now that he's in Silicon Valley as opposed to Oklahoma City where he just owned a steakhouse, Right. And finally, we don't normally talk track and field on this show.
Yeah.
But this was kind of an amazing video. The USC women's track and field team pulled off a miracle comeback to win the NCAA championship. I'm not sure if you saw this.
Yeah.
It was in the 4x400 meter relay.
Yeah.
They needed to win the race for the title, and they fumbled the baton, apparently.
Yes.
This was Kendall Ellis turning on the Jets. Listen to this call.
Now, there's no way it's going to unless they drop the baton. Purdue's going to win this, which we certainly didn't see.
Here comes SC.
USC is not going to catch Purdue, I don't think. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Look what's just happening. USC wins the women's team title in the last meter of the 4x4. Unbelievable final leg by Kendall Ellis.
50.0 on the split. I almost had a heart attack.
Well, it just doesn't get better than that.
I don't know what 50.01 means, but that looks pretty impressive.
How about the girl that lost? Did you see her first
How
reaction?
Purdue is that, by the way?
That is so Purdue. I feel bad for that girl. That is a bummer.
It's like you just want to scream, like, turn around. Like, you need to run a little bit faster for 3 steps, and you win a championship.
Kobe Bryant had a little tweet.
Yes, Kobe Bryant tweeted willpower. Kobe very impressed by that.
Yeah.
How could you not be?
Fight on. Go USC. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
A lot of people think LeBron faked it with that cast thing. We've got a video evidence of LeBron's hand. It's visual evidence of LeBron's right hand and his left hand side by side. You know, LeBron's got what, 4 or 5% body fat? Look at his right hand. It's all puffy. So I don't think this is, anybody claiming LeBron's making it up with that cast. There's the picture. Look at that. I mean, by the way, I banged my hand a couple of times in my life. That's exactly what it looks like when you fractured or broken your hand. I'm sorry, but these people saying LeBron was faking it, I don't see it, man. When you bang your hand, look how puffy LeBron's hand is. Now, did he have to wear the cast? Again, he could have put it on 10 minutes later. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's a good way. There's a difference between exaggerating a little, being a little dramatic, and faking. That hand is the hand of a guy. That's puffiness. Now, I think you can, like the NFL, they shoot it up and you can go play. But all right, with that, let's bring in Dahntay Jones, former LeBron teammate, NBA champ, Cavs, 2016 Dookie, 13 years in the NBA. Nobody thinks he faked it, right? That's not a fake. I see that puffy hand thing.
You see the puffy hand, and which we didn't pay attention to at the time.
Right.
And we see a different person from 2, 3, and 4 than we saw in game 1.
Yeah.
Definitely. We see somebody who's guarding something who's not operating at the same capacity that he was in game 1. When he was just doing everything that he could to win. So at home, I was looking like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? But now the story's being told now because of he had to guard something and operate in a different capacity. So,
by the way, the only thing that surprised me, Dahntay, was that he's not hothead guy. I mean, LeBron's pretty much a cool customer. Like anytime there's a fight on the floor, LeBron's like I'm surprised he went hothead guy. That's only because he's a smart player. There's a lot of guys in the NBA. If you told me Boogie Cousins punched a wall, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
But he's as smart as you are. He knew the urgency that was attached to that game. He knew that they didn't have the personnel to necessarily beat a Warriors team in a 7-game series. So we had to take advantage of each and every moment, and each game mattered. So that is he just lost it for a second, and he's human.
It's funny. I have always supported players because I've moved in my business, and GMs move and owners sell teams. And I mean, the Thunder used to be in Seattle and then they moved it. So I've always been for players having the ability to move, and especially in the NBA where it's a player and star-driven league. Let me ask you about player mobility and player loyalty. Be as honest as you can. How do players see it?
Players now have the ability to make the best decision for their life. And like you wouldn't want somebody else making a decision. When getting traded is one of the worst things possible because you had no input on the decision-making process of where you're moving your family to in a 48-hour period, basically. So when guys take advantage of their destiny and how they're going to live their life, I'm all for it because an organization will pull the plug on you as soon as it's beneficial for the organization. So should guys be loyal to an organization that could trade you, a la Isaiah Thomas, who gave everything he had, who played hurt, who was an MVP caliber player, and then he's on another team when it's best for the organization.
Let me read the teams you played with here. Grizzlies, Kings, Nuggets, Pacers, Mavs, Hawks, Clippers, Cavs. I want you to take us into your world. Give me one of those teams where you were traded and it just broke your heart when you got the call because you really liked the environment. You liked the city. The people in your life liked it.
I'll take. I was traded to Dallas
from
Indiana.
Tell me the moment, the call.
The call. I was in New York City playing summer basketball on a Nike court and playing in this Nike Summer League, and it was a heckler on the court, and he was like, that's why you got traded. He kept saying it, and I'm like, what do you mean I got traded? That's why you got traded. That's why they got you out of there. Okay, whatever. And then we go to my best friend goes to his phone. He's like, oh, you really are traded. You got traded to Dallas. So now you have to I'm trying to compute all of this in the middle of a game, and I sat down and I'm like, okay, because I thought we were to an understanding of where I was going to get traded to. I knew I was going to get traded. We asked to be traded because it wasn't the right situation for my career. And we had agreed upon a destination at that point in time. And that wasn't the destination. It was a beneficial destination for the organization, not for me when we agreed upon that they were going to send me somewhere else.
From that point forward, did you look at the player-team relationship differently?
I definitely had to, because it put me in a position where it wasn't, they weren't doing what's best for me. They were doing what's best for them and their jobs, which is the business. So you understand more and more it's a business as you get further along in your career. But it's moments where it's just like, okay, that's not really fair, but we make the most of this situation and we push on forward.
LeBron's in a unique situation, at least for the time being, where he can kind of pick his spots and do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. Is there one that makes a lot of sense to you? Like, I have no problem admitting, not just because I live in Los Angeles, but the houses, his kids have been to the homes, Magic Johnson. L.A. makes a bunch of sense for me, but you can argue me off the ledge. I mean, there's no, you could
right. There's no 100% decision, but me and you agree that L.A. makes the most sense because that's what we agree upon. We like living in Los Angeles. We think he does. We would think that his kids would. It's more opportunity off the court here in Los Angeles, and that you could make a great case for L.A., but you ultimately have to go inside his home and see what his kids really like and what his wife really likes.
Because that's a big deal for him.
Because that's a big deal for him. He's a family first type of guy. He cares about the comfort level of his family. As he said, he has teenage and preteen boys who are moving to a different phase of their life, and putting them in the right situation and making sure they're comfortable is part of him being a father and being in touch with his kids and caring about how they want to live their life and where they want to be, and he cares about their opinion. So that's what you have to be. You have to be inside of his home, and you have to find out how they are thinking as a family, and then I think he can make anything on the court work.
I said this earlier today that it used to be winning 3 was a dynasty, but I almost say winning 2 is a dynasty because I think it's harder for players today. They get richer faster, and all of us, when we get richer faster, we get a little less patient. We want to do our own thing. We feel empowered. There's social media now. Players have a bigger voice. Players are more mobile. This is the reality of life. CEOs leave more than they used to. New England, Tom Brady, I'm going to do it my way now. I have no problem with this, but I look at the Warriors and I say 2 titles is the new 3. I look at them as a dynasty. To you?
Not yet. I look at the teams that got 3. I still think some people say 4. Some people they're putting
that seems impossible to me.
3 in a row, but technically I think the 3 in a row is what makes the dynasty than the great teams. I think the Bulls 3 in a row. I think the Lakers 3 in a row. I think those things were things that probably won't come around that often. I think we can find teams that go back to back with this player movement and with these stars wanting to play with each other. So I think that could happen more often than the 3 in a row.
If you were Steve Kerr and you have all these stars and everybody now is, the shoe deals, the headphone deals, the love, you got a veteran group of guys you just won a championship with again, and you're going to be opening at Denver on a Tuesday night in October. Dahntay, if you coach the team, how would you approach? Chris Bosh came on last week and he said, listen, man, it's not the first title of the second. It's when you come back after the second for camp and you're like, that was a short summer. How would you, if you were Steve Kerr, address the beginning of next year?
That's a part of him. That's the hardest part of his job is keeping those guys motivated. And even last year, keeping them motivated. We see they struggled a little bit with their focus and their output on the court. They had a chance to put it together and had a great playoff run, so we have to congratulate them. But now they have a group of guys who seem to be internally motivated in a different capacity than most of the guys in the league right now. They want to dominate on a different level. They don't just want to be champions. They want to be a part of the elite group of teams that exist in the NBA, that have existed in the NBA. And that's what's going to make them special. If they can stay internally motivated and put together a performance like they did this year, then they can separate themselves and become that dynasty that we are all talking about.
You were with LeBron in Cleveland. Do you think there is that part of him that feels a certain loyalty to Cleveland that just is going to pull at him during this process?
I think that's a part of it, because he is extremely loyal as a person and to his city, and he cares about his city. But we have to forget, he's not from Cleveland; he's from Akron, and he's devoted to Akron as a city, but Ohio, because that's who represents him. But now it's about him, and he knows it's about him. It's about what he wants, how he wants to live his life, and I think he feels as if he's given the state of Ohio what he promised them, and that's a championship, and he can rest with that. But if he never did it, I think it would have been on his conscience. But now I think that part of his conscience is gone, is swept away. He didn't promise them 2, 3, 4, and 5. He promised to bring a championship to Ohio, and he did. And he did his job, and now he can do what's best for him.
Yeah, the standard's lower in Cleveland. I mean, frankly, a championship is good enough.
Well, a championship is good enough in most cities.
Yes.
Except people who...
Except you're a Yankee fan.
Right. If you've never experienced one, a championship is good enough. And it should be good enough. He came there and brought them to, 4 straight finals? And a championship? That's...
You were with LeBron. When the season ends, does he... I think if I recall, he goes on these 2-week he took the team to Hawaii one year. Will he sort of disappear for 2 weeks?
Yeah, he's going to take his family on a vacation.
Okay.
He's going to take some time just for them, because he's been away, he's been in the house but kind of away, and he devotes that time right after the season to his family, takes them on a vacation, spends the time necessary, because he has different commitments throughout the summer. So whether it be Nike trips, Asia trips, whatever he has to do, he takes that immediate time for his family.
Good seeing you, man.
Always great.
Dahntay Jones. Coming up, it's my favorite list we've done this year. And I know some of you are going to hate it, but we have that list coming up next. It's called Best for Last. Great to have you in. Well, it was obviously a great last week or two for the Warriors. They are the best in the NBA. But I thought to myself, now that the NBA season has been concluded, and we, over the last month and a half, 2 months, have watched the best of the NBA, and we have the best team and now the best players in free agency, I thought, let's go back, look at the season, and I'll present my all-stock dropped team. 10 people in the NBA whose stock significantly dropped this year. Their brand took a beating. Let's go to Best for Last.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, cowherd. It's the best for last.
All right, number 10 on my all-stock dropped team, where the brand, their name took a beating. Let's go number 10, J.R. Smith. I think we know why. No reason to waste too much time on J.R. Smith. Let's just, if we could, get the J.R. Smith thing out of the way. Number 9, Carmelo Anthony. Basically, biggest disappointment of the Thunder's supposed big three. Career low in points. Worst three-point percentage of any playoff performer at 21%. Carmelo fell off a cliff last year. Number 8's kind of a surprise. Andrew Wiggins, the former number 1 pick. I've seen him play live 3 times. No alpha, no dog, heck of a talent. But Jimmy Butler arrived, and he became a clear number 3 option from 24 a game to 18 a game. And one of the worst free throw shooters in the NBA this season. He lost his confidence, plummeted to 64% from the stripe. I mean, you just don't see this in the NBA very much. When you have a really, really good young player, they're growing, and they go off a cliff. He's got to redeem himself. Number 7, Markelle Fultz, former number 1 pick. Can you imagine if the Sixers had picked Jason Tatum and not moved up to pick Markelle Fultz, who I was told last week by a source I trust, he's a bust. It's in his head he can't shoot. Only played 3 games in the playoffs, averaged 1.7 points. Played only 14 games in the regular season. They released occasional grainy video. Can you imagine if the Sixers had drafted Jason Tatum with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? You can almost assure that LeBron James would choose Philadelphia, and for the next 5 years be in control of the NBA. Number 6, John Wall. Worst shooting year since his rookie year, 42%. Missed half of the season due to injury. By the way, the Wizards' best stretch of basketball all year. They won 10 of 13 when he got hurt. And once again, he couldn't lead them past the Raptors in the playoffs. Bad year for John Wall. Number 5, Kawhi Leonard, the strangest disappearance since Jimmy Hoffa. Played 9 games, had this sort of mysterious quad injury. He's kind of a quiet kid to himself. A cousin kind of runs his show. And he got hurt, didn't trust San Antonio team doctors, got into a public fight with Greg Popovich. It was just kind of a strange year for Kawhi Leonard. Now, he's probably going to get a max deal. I certainly think he's a max talent. He's a tremendous two-way player. But let's be honest, this was strange. He looked strange. It was odd. Nobody else fights with the Spurs and Popovich. Bad year for his brand. Number 4, Boogie Cousins, who I've never been a huge fan of. He got hurt, and the Pelicans went 21-13 without him and swept Portland in the first round without him. And then Anthony Davis picked up steam as a MVP without him. Listen, we've always known he's hard to play with, but the Pelicans were the first 6 seed to sweep in the first round since the NBA switched to a 7-game format. So they did something historic when he left. Number 3 is Isaiah Thomas. Feel bad for him. Last guy drafted. Nobody gives him a chance. Averages 28-29 with the Celtics. Going to be an MVP. Then they trade him to Cleveland, and LeBron doesn't like him. And they trade him to L.A., and they like him, but he's got no future. Once LeBron goes to the Lakers, if he does, he'll probably get bumped again. That's just terrible. Number 2, I mean, I know you think I hate him, but Russell Westbrook's brand took a beating. I mean, think about it. Last year, triple-double averages, MVP. This year averages a triple-double, not even considered in the MVP race. That's not me voting. His brand's taken a beating. I think the way he melted down with fans in Utah, melted down with the media. Listen, you can keep giving him good players, but Carmelo fell off the cliff, and Paul George and he against Utah. I mean, that's a good roster. Russell Westbrook's an MVP. Paul George, Steven Adams. Come on now, that's a pretty good roster. Carmelo Anthony. Come on now. Melo's a Hall of Famer. Paul George will make it. Westbrook will make it. And Steven Adams, best offensive rebounder in the game. You can't get past Utah. That thing didn't even go 7 games. By the way, Victor Oladipo got really good without him. And number 1, Blake Griffin. So in the offseason, he signs a $173 million deal with the Clippers. In February, they trade him. By the way, the Clippers were the same without him. And the Pistons won 49% without him and 44% with him. By the way, he also tried this experiment this year, which I understand. He's going to shoot more three-pointers. So he shot 3 times more three-pointers this year. And then ranked 113th in the NBA. My all-stock drop team. By the way, I got a coach, a GM, and an owner. Tibbs. About 5 years ago, everybody loved Tibbs. Come on, man. You got to win a second-round playoff series with Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns. They've underachieved. No way around it. Brian Colangelo, I liked him till the Twitter thing. That was embarrassing. And our friend Dan Gilbert, second time, is going to butcher this whole LeBron thing. That's our All-NBA owner, GM, coach, players whose stock dropped this year. Yeah. I don't know if J.R. Smith's stock was particularly high. It was never really a buy. It was at most a hold, but it's definitely a sell. And I do think Kawhi Leonard bounces back. That I do. So it's over the NBA season. Now LeBron, as Dahntay Jones just told us, goes on a couple-of-week vacation with his fam. And then we'll kind of find out what happens. I think the next 2 weeks are very interesting. This is a huge couple of weeks in sports. The U.S. Open starts Thursday on this network. And also Thursday, Friday, the World Cup starts. And I think we have about a 2-week period, 3-week period now of free agent guessing. Who goes where? My gut feeling is that LeBron's going to end up in Los Angeles if he can get another player to go with him. Some have speculated Chris Paul. That story came out. I think that's possible, although I do think he built a new home in Houston and likes it. And I think there's Paul George, who's currently in L.A. up north, Calabasas, working out with Russell Westbrook, who played in UCLA. He's in town, just bought a new house. So, you'll try to conjoin these things. Tomorrow we have LeVar Ball on the show, and I'm going to go after him. And I've said this before. I think the Lakers have intentions of trading Lonzo Ball if LeBron comes here. And I think that needs to be addressed. I think it's a real story. I know a lot of people don't like LeVar Ball, but I think it's a real story. It appeared in the L.A. Times a month ago. And I think it was planted by the Lakers. The story was the Lakers want to build around their young core, but have told teams no player's untouchable. And Jason Whitlock theorized the reason for that was quite simply they're telling LeVar we're getting out of the Lonzo business. So we'll ask him about that. I think that's a story. I think it's a real one, and I frankly believe it. I think the sources I have say the one player the Lakers of the young ones they would really struggle to get rid of is Kyle Kuzma, who they think has a chance to be a good defensive player, can shoot the three, good body, good kid, really hard worker. By the way, Mark Stein, the New York Times, who was close with LeBron, had this story last week. Don't discount LeBron James and Chris Paul teaming up on the Lakers. Now, again, if the more you read about LeBron going to Houston, there's some financial situations. It would be a very top-heavy team with Harden, Paul, LeBron, and not much of a bench. So it's going to play out. It's going to be fun. I can't wait for it. And this is the NBA loves this stuff. They may not like a sweep in the finals. They love how their season gets extended by 5 weeks, 6 weeks with this free agent stuff. All right, we'll see you on Speak for Yourself later. Go to theherdnow.com, theherdnow.com, more free stuff.